Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about sample space. Make sure you have your notes printed out so that you can keep up with our video for today. You can also use a scrap sheet of paper, although using the printed notes is a lot easier. All right, sample space describes all of the possible outcomes of an event. Sample space can be displayed with lists, tables, or tree diagrams. To determine and that determines the possibility of a simple or a compound event. So here are two examples of simple events. The New England Patriots and the Dallas Cowboys are playing. What are the possible outcomes of the game? Well, the Patriots could win or the Cowboys could win. Those are the possible outcomes of this very simple event. Number two, a number cube is rolled. We are assuming that when it says number cube, that it's a standard number cubed, not weighted, six-sided. All of the outcomes are fairly equally likely. The possible outcomes to roll a six-sided number cube would be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, or a 6. These are lists of the possible outcomes. Number 3, now we're going to either make a list or create a table. Generally here on these notes today, we're going to stick with a list, but I'm also going to ask you to watch a quick video, and it shows you what an area model looks like. All right, number 3, for breakfast, Jamie can choose from cereal, eggs, or a muffin. She can also drink coffee, orange juice, or milk. What are all the possible outcomes? So that's our first question. What are they? And then secondly, how many total outcomes are possible? So after we list them, we're going to count them and see how many are possible. So she could have cereal with coffee, cereal with OJ, or cereal with milk. Then her next option was eggs with coffee, eggs with orange juice, or eggs with milk. And lastly, we could do the muffin with coffee, muffin with OJ, and muffin with milk. Once you have them listed, then we're going to note or count how many possible outcomes there are. There are a total of 9. Simple as that. I want you to try number 4 on your own. When you're pause the video now. When you're ready, push play, and the answer will reveal itself. So our first option was Spanish with art, then Spanish with music, Spanish with theater, then German with art, German with music, or German with theater. So that it's a total of 6 possible outcomes. Always make sure you're answering the questions being asked. In this case, what are the outcomes and then how many are there? Number 5, I'm going to show you how to draw a tree diagram. A fair coin is tossed 3 times. So we're dealing with a fair coin. One side is heads, one side is tails. It's equal in weight, so you have an equally likely chance of having the coin land on heads or tails. So we're going to make a list of all the possible outcomes. Well, when I do my first toss, so this is my number 1 toss, I get a heads or a tails. Then when I toss it again, I could have a heads or a tails after getting heads the first time, or I could get a heads or a tails after getting tails the first time. And then on that third toss, I would get heads or tails, heads or tails, heads or tails, heads or tails. We're going to list all the possible outcomes. I'm going to read just directly across my tree diagram to make my list. So first it was heads, then heads, then heads, heads, then heads, then tails. Heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, tails. And then I'm going to do the same with my lower half of my tree diagram. Tails, then heads, then heads, tails, then heads, then tails, 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 heads, tails, tails, tails. So as you can see, there are a total of 8 possible outcomes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, on the next page, we are going to create a list and use the information to answer the question. So Amanda wants to roll a number cube and flip a coin. She's going to roll the number cube once and then flip the coin. So the number cube is being rolled first. So I prefer the tree diagram. So I'm going to start making mine here. She rolls a number cube, then she flips the coin afterwards. So if she gets a 1, if she rolls a 1, then she could get a heads or a tails when she flips the coin after that. Or she could roll a 2 and then get a heads or a tails. And this pattern continues all the way throughout. So those the number cube once, flipping the coin once. What are the possible outcomes in which the number cube lands on an odd number? So to answer the question, I'm only focused on these outcomes that I've circled. And it says, what are they? So we're going to list them. The first option was rolling a 1, landing on heads, then rolling a 1 and landing on tails. Getting a 3 and a heads and a 3 and a tails, 5 and a heads and a 5 and a tails. So that is a total of 6 possible outcomes. All right, pause the video here, see if you can do number 7 on your own. For number 7, you are just listing all the possible outcomes of the 2 spins. So first it could be a 1 and a yellow, a 1 a red, a 1 a blue, a 1 and an orange. And then you could roll the 2 in the yellow, the 2 in the red, the 2 in the blue, and the 2 in the orange. And that in itself is a total of 8 outcomes. Number 8, I want you to do 8 on your own. Try to create a tree diagram. All right, we're going to start with our shirts. Our shirts could be red, blue, white. Our pants are going to be gray or khaki, gray or khaki, gray or khaki. So you could make your tree spanning horizontally, or you could actually have made your tree vertically, so starting at the top and it branching down. How many different combinations do we have? In this case, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options, 6 outcomes. Number 9, you're buying a car. You can choose a 2-door or a 4-door, leather or cloth interior, black, silver, or white. So in this case, or in many of the cases, it's important to slow down when you're reading your question because all of the options tend to blend in together if you're reading it too fast. But here we go. We've got a 2-door or a 4-door car. Each of those could have leather or cloth, and each of those could have your black, silver, or white interior. So if I count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've got 12 possible outcomes here. Number 10, I want you to try on your own. You can make your tree diagram vertical or horizontal, however you see fit. All right, so Sergio is going to toss his two-sided counter chips, counter chips, red or yellow. Again, you have it vertically or horizontally. Counting all the possible outcomes, there are a total of 8 here. Now, You may have noticed that this does take a long time, and maybe there's a shortcut or a simpler way. That would be called the fundamental counting principle. You can use this to find the total number of outcomes. If one activity occurs in X number of ways and then the other activity occurs in Y number of ways, then both activities occur in X times Y number of ways. So in number one, if I go to the cafeteria for lunch and I have a choice of 3 drinks, 3 sandwiches, 2 sides, and 4 desserts, instead of making a tree diagram or listing out all the possible outcomes, I can just multiply everything together to get 72. Making a tree diagram and a list would be very challenging here. It would take a lot of work, a lot of effort. So the fundamental counting principle is a shortcut to answer the question of how many. If the question asks what are the different outcomes, then we would need to list them out or make a tree diagram. Go ahead and try number 2 and 3. Pause the video and the answers will come on the screen when you are ready. For number 2, we're tossing the nickel 5 times. So those are our 5 tosses, and each toss has 2 options. It can land on heads or tails each time, right? So the fundamental counting principle says that we just multiply it all together. So that's 2 to the 5th power, which is 32. There are 32 possible outcomes here. Number 3, you've got 6 shirts, 5 pairs of pants, and 4 pairs of shoes. So you have a total of 120 different outfits here. Number 4, go ahead and pause the video, try 4 and 5 on your own, and then when you're ready, push play. The answers will be revealed. For number 4, you've got chocolate, vanilla, apple, peach, and cherry. So it's 5 possible pie choices. To drink, you only have 3 drink possibilities. So that's 15 combinations. And number 5, we've got 6 meat choices, 10 veggie choices for a total of 60 different options. All right, good job, guys.